Welcome to my thoughts on what is considered cheating in Gran Turismo Sport. So this video is far from full volume, but at best, the next time I'll be able to do a video with full volume will be next week, at best. So sorry about that, but I figured something like this needs to be done as soon as possible, given pertinent information that has been found recently. I will say though that tomorrow will be a 2-year anniversary of Gran Turismo Sport video. That will be overall happy and like good mood and stuff, but this, I guess, is a bit more controversial depending on what side you're on. To begin with, I've linked in the description a thread from GG Planet that has found out that apparently, as of the thread being posted, I assume it probably still is now, I don't think PD's done anything about it, the top time in the world of the Weekly Race A, current one, Group 4 is at Tokyo Expressway, the one with the long straight. Apparently someone has wall road to the point that PD does give a penalty for it, and rightfully so, but not enough penalty time to hinder the amount of time gained from wall riding. So ultimately that player is obviously cheating, getting penalized for it, but not enough, so the cheating is able to get away with, essentially. Will PD do something about it or not? They have done stuff about that in the past, but that in particular is being penalized. So that's why something's being done about it, because there's already a penalty given. I'm not as good as at that track, and I'm in the America's region, so there's no replays that I can tell in the America's region of this happening. So I'm not going to sell that example in and of itself because I don't really have it, and I'm not really good enough to replicate it. But what I will show, and I'll get into in a little bit of my own circumstance with it, is the time trial, the Honda S800s at BB Raceway. What our riding looks like there, and the aftermath of it. For the first comparison between sort of 3 different types of what could be considered cheating in GT Sport. Here's the first clip of the wall riding. As y'all can see from this clip, it's blatant wall riding, and there is a penalty given for it. I do not finish this lap because 1, it's slower than my main lap by a lot, and 2, it is also penalized, so therefore is considered cheating. This, I don't think anyone denies, is blatant cheating, and it's so much so that PD also gives a penalty for it. Essentially, in certain circumstances, there's definitely speed gain. It doesn't really work with this car and track combination, but it's been shown in Weekly Race A that it does happen, where it gives them advantage. So much so in that circumstance that the penalty's not even enough for it. So this first example is straightforward cheating. And my overall thoughts of this type of cheating is that people who do this and get away with it to the point of it improves their overall time, when it does give a penalty for it, as it does here, and in the Group 4 example, the driver should have long-term effects, whether it's temporary ban on their system, the time taken away, something like that. It shouldn't just be looked down upon and not really anything more. Of course, there's criticism coming to the people who do this, but nonetheless they continue to do it, so just calling them out isn't necessarily enough for something like this. And this is just by far easily blatant cheating. I don't really think there's much denying of that. So therefore something needs to be done to stop it. PD tries to give a penalty, but in certain circumstances the penalty's more than, or the penalty's not enough to overall hinder the more time gained by the wall ride. So here is the next example, and this, I'm not even really gonna deny it, is probably more of an iffy example, because the first clip that I showed is blatant, this one, there's kind of two sides to the story, and I'm the one who the story is about. This is a clip from my best lap in the BB Raceway event. Also, what could be considered cheating or not. I'll get into it in a bit of my thoughts on it, and then I will analyze it. So first, I'll just show the clip in full speed. As y'all can see, there's no penalty given. It's not a downright wall ride, but I do nudge the wall here. Is this considered cheating? PD apparently doesn't consider cheating, and or this hasn't acknowledged it to consider cheating yet. Like, maybe they do, they just haven't put into place something that considers it cheating. But for now, there's no penalty, so compared to the first clip, it isn't cheating, or else it would have a penalty. Now, of course, there's many debates to be had about that, depending on the side that you're on. So, one side is what I said. It's penalty, should be given a penalty, but it just wasn't here, but it is cheating. The other side of it is there's no penalty, and there's not major contact. An example of this is why this isn't necessarily major contact on the wall is in NASCAR, there's such thing in racing called rubbing racing. An example to deal with a track with this and not necessarily car-on-car contact is Darlington. A term in NASCAR is Darlington stripe. And essentially something like this happens. Rubbing against the wall for a bit at Darlington because you have to run the high line there to get the best results. So occasionally you will rub up against the wall. You're not wall riding, just sometimes you do hit the wall. And NASCAR allows this to happen, so if drivers do get an advantage or not from it, it's kind of hard to say, but nonetheless, there's only a finite amount of times they can do it before the car is too much damage to do it. So that's a factor to consider in NASCAR, but in GT Sport, in this particular mode, there's no damage, and I can restart anyway, so in NASCAR, hitting a wall slightly is kind of not necessarily a big deal, as long as you don't do it much, because later on, if you do it enough, the car will be damaged. In GT Sport, in theory, that means it's even less of a deal, because there's no damage. But then, of course, the other side of the argument is that because this particular thing gains time, it's obvious it does. Last time I checked, the first place driver in the world is also wall riding to an extent, a different amount of wall rides depending on the person, but nonetheless it's happening, and there is an advantage to be gained. How much advantage it is compared to not wall riding is hard to say because different people do it in different ways. I'm far from the best in the world. This is about the best time I can get. Maybe I can get about 1 more hundredth of a second, so I'm at a 7.4 now. I can maybe get a low 7.3. But essentially that's the best I can get, when the world best is a 0.5. So I can't really vouch for the best of the best, but nonetheless, there is noticeable time gained, though I do not know exactly how much time that is. So, do I consider it cheating? Considering both arguments, that the one being that it is cheating, it's just not penalized, but it should be penalized. And the other argument being is because it happens in other real-life sports, even though it is a bit shady, as long as it's not done to the degree like a straight-up wall ride or something like that, minor contact should be allowed. Or overall, honestly, I'm pretty indifferent. I don't care all that much. I don't care how strict or lenient a penalty system is, as long as it's consistent. And as of now, GT Sports penalty system simply is not consistent. Because here's a third example. The penalty system just simply not being consistent. It somewhat ties together to the first two clips because it's the same car and track combination. Here is the clip. Actually, no, it's This one, I think. Yes, it's this one. This is the clip. There we go. So as y'all can see, for the first turn here, instead of wall riding, I go way onto the apron, well below the double yellow line, and I think at least I have 3 tires off what's considered the main track here, the banked part. In general, the sort of racing etiquette is 2 tires on what's considered to be the track. I definitely don't at this point. I might even have all 4 tires off the track, given that this is such a small car. I don't know, I'm not in a B2C, but I can definitely feel by how the car is reacting that I have at least 3 tires off. Now, this does not improve my time, so therefore no one's really using it to gain time. But is it cheating? All in all, I would say this is definitely more cheating than the previous clip that I saw, because this is literally making the track shorter. Is it faster in this particular case? No. There's many cases out there in which it would be. Hitting a wall to slow you down. There's a lot of circumstances in which that's not going to be faster. And it's been proven time and again. Another example being NASCAR. Remember, in NASCAR, the video game type move in the late 2000s, early 2010s, I think it was Carl Edwards who did it. I might try and find that clip, but I honestly can't remember the exact details of it, so I need to look at that clip too. But I do remember that essentially the commentators called it like a video game move. Essentially, one car tried to dive bomb another car to run into the wall, ultimately when the turn ended, and it didn't work, so therefore it didn't gain the time. I'll try and find that clip as an example. So essentially in NASCAR, just touching a wall can work, but not for an extended period of time. But then right, smashing a wall, even if it's on the very final lap of the race, and you only do it once, does not work. So what does this mean to GT Sport? Making the track shorter should be a penalty, while riding blatantly should be a penalty. One may give more or less time advantage than the other, but it's obvious both of them are bad. Just barely touching the wall. That's why I don't really have an exact opinion on this, because there's a lot of people out there doing it, and ultimately I make my channel to please the majority of people. There's a lot of people who are against this particular thing, and there's a lot of people who are indifferent. In fact, I would say that's the majority of people. And then there's people who are, to an extent, for it in the sense of just show the best lap possible that is legal. Because there's not a penalty given, this as of now is legal. So that's what I've currently been doing, because that's what I've always done. Just get the best lap I can possibly get, and if it's good enough, I will do a replay of it. If y'all don't like this format, I will change. If y'all do like this format, I will continue. It's essentially just whatever the majority decides. If the majority of you prefer me to not use the nudging of the wall in circumstances in which it gains speed, I will not. If y'all prefer me to get the best lap possible, no holds barred, I will do that. It's just whatever the majority wants. Again, I'm pretty impartial to this, because there's many examples in which this is fine in real life, and there's examples in which it's not. Essentially, NASCAR, it's fine. Formula 1, I would imagine it's not. If you do this Formula 1, you'd probably break the suspension, have the tire come off, something like that. So it really depends on the real life circumstance. With this being GT Sport, trying to simulate real life, it might also depend on the circumstance. If the majority of people decide it's a circumstantial thing, so sometimes I should do it and sometimes I don't, just explain in the comments, whether it be GT Planet or on my YouTube channel or whatever, what circumstances you think I should or shouldn't do this in. Essentially, I'm here to please the majority of the community. I know I'm never going to make everyone happy. That's just facts of life. So, I'll do whatever y'all want. Obviously, wall riding is cheating. Obviously, cutting the track is cheating. Something like this, though, it's kind of hard to say. So I'll just let y'all say it. If y'all want it, say so. If y'all don't want it, say so. If y'all want it sometimes or not, say so. If y'all decide for me to change the way in which I will do it, this event it's kind of hard to do anything about because I really don't think I can beat best lap that I have by not nudging the wall. But from now on, I will do so. And if y'all decide later that that's not how you actually like it, say so then, and I will then change. Ultimately, I'm here to please the majority of people. I don't really care how long the majority of people are pleased or not. It's just whenever y'all feel like something needs to be changed, say it. I don't care if people flip-flop on their ideas, as long as the majority of people want a particular thing or not. I'll try to make the best I can to implement it. I know this is shady no matter what side of the spectrum you're on. Whether you do believe that it's okay to do, it's obvious it's not quite as good of a thing to do as just straight up doing it clean, not hitting the wall at all. But there's a competitive aspect in everything. For an example, just look at speedrunning in video games, like let's say Grand Theft Auto 5 for example. There's way more shady things that happen in that type of speedrunning in Grand Theft Auto 5 than what's happening now in GT Sport. Grand Theft Auto 5 is arcade. It's meant to be unrealistic. GT Sport is meant to be realistic, but nonetheless, they're both video games. Video games are going to be played. They're going to be games. That's literally in their name. Video games are meant to be played. They're meant to be gamed. So people are going to play the system, game the system, no matter what regulations are out there. Ultimately, though, I will do as much playing the system or not as y'all want me to. I'm fine either way. Just say it right now. As of now, I'll say this. The last video that I did, soloing the full lap of this clip, has about 20-something views, 3 likes, and 0 dislikes. There's no comments saying whether people necessarily like or don't me doing this. But nonetheless, it does not have any dislikes. So, as of now, I guess I'll continue the way I am. But I do understand there's at least a few people out there who don't like this. And that's the thing, though. If for the few people out there who don't like this have already said they don't, if y'all are passionate about this, get more people to say it, so therefore it outweighs the people who have already said they are okay with this, and then I will change. Do not start a flame war with each other. Just get your side bigger than the other. Don't try to bash the other side, just get your side more popular. And I'll do whatever the biggest side says. Just please don't take this out on each other. Just say it to me and leave the other side out of it, please. Because no matter how shady something is or isn't, there's no need to hate the other side over it. All in all, it's a video game. It's meant to get better. There's different opinions on what's truly better, but nonetheless, if we can better the community as a whole, that's a good thing. Just get the majority of the community on one side or the other, and then overall it will better the community in the end, because the majority of people will be happy. Just don't end up having the majority of people be complaining to each other, though, and I think it will work out in the end, no matter what is decided. And ultimately, in the end, no matter what is decided, it will be worth yeehaw, as long as the majority of people are happy.